At the very beginning of time, an all-powerful and loving God created people, and also witches. God, showing his wisdom, shared his power with the witches and told them to help those people who need help. They should do it for him. This was God's plan. The welcoming and beautiful witches heeded the words of God. They accompanied people with enthusiasm and devotion, showing them their care and love. But these days the situation has changed dramatically. Huge angry crowds of people continually gather in the squares to watch the hangings of those same witches. They do not stop screaming loudly at the top of their lungs to be killed, raising their hands clenched into fists. Bloodthirsty people want only death for witches. They really hate them and don't want any help from them. Another witch hunt celebration is taking place in the Lydian Empire. Dozens of soiled bodies of witch girls hang in front of the square, catering to the gathered crowd. One girl becomes completely furious, tears flowing from her eyes, her teeth are clenched tightly, and her red eyes are full of hatred. She shouts that all humanity will be overtaken by death. Meanwhile, in the Lydian Empire, Solsevere region, it's a warm day, a beautiful blue sky, but underneath there is a huge wasteland, in which there are only fragments of buildings. Someone near a large blooming cactus says that this heat is simply killing it today. Another voice agrees, his legs are already stiff. Near a beautiful blossoming bud with white petals, someone asks how long they have left to the border. Sand spills out of someone's shoe, and he solemnly only responds to shut up right now. He wonders where they are now. Chloe is being spoken to again. Does she hear? This is just disgusting. The witch's assistant Adonis is all indignant. He curses, kicking sand out of his boots. Ice witch Chloe Morgan, meanwhile, stands behind her and looks at the large open map of the area. She suddenly turns around and loudly screams at Adonis, calling him an idiot. Chloe is angry because her magic is not some cheap thing. This is all due to the fact that a disgruntled guy, covered in sweat, asked to use her magic. He doesn't understand. Nothing will happen if they cool down little. The witch again curses at the assistant, who sits on the edge of the hill and looks into his device. Let him wait a minute. Chloe told him not to use this strange device, otherwise the signal would be tracked. This cannot be allowed, but the device just emits a signal. It has found their location. Morgan continues to understand his map, although it is slow and difficult. She's trying to determine if maybe they need to go north. The witch swears at the guy. If he continues to whine, then she will simply leave her partner right here, without further thought. He shows a small white device in his hand, and it's not strange, it's a smartphone. By the way, the assistant made it himself, so no one else can track the signal. The inventor explains that the smartphone uses the description of summoning magic to replace the transmission signal with interdimensional phones. So even if the army triangulates the signal, they will not be able to see their location. Smug Adonis never ceases to praise his brainchild. He jokes because in their days, using a paper map and such is just stupid. The partner promises to make one for Chloe too, next time. But suddenly the guy falls to the ground with his stomach down, and some object sticks out from behind his head. Evil Chloe Morgan does not intend to be distracted by all these incomprehensible trinkets. It was she who struck Adonis so that he would no longer be so smug in front of her. The witch continues to look at the map. But don't forget that while these two are chatting here, they are still being pursued. So from this very moment until they cross the border, no useless talk. The companion agrees. If they intend to return to a quiet and happy life, then they need to find a country where witches will be tolerated. The girl rubs her hands and smiles maliciously. In that case, they can find a school for Adonis. Wouldn't that be good? Maybe he'll find a girlfriend there or something like that. The guy does not understand such a joke and reluctantly replies that this apparently does not apply to useless conversations. The guy doesn't need any school, he'd rather remain a witch's assistant. The girl laughs and flirts. Does he prefer older women? Adonis becomes furious and rudely replies that this is not what he meant. What is she even talking about? The joyful witch apologizes, she was just joking. But it gave her a lot of pleasure. The assistant became wary. He can't understand why his teacher is so calm now. Isn't there anything that bothers her at all? Chloe hates this country and the empire of frankincense. The assistant begins to plot something. He believes they could destroy them all with magic, all of humanity. The girl turns around and asks him again, did he say something? Suddenly Adonis notices something approaching them. Several flying motorcycles are rushing towards them at high speed. Is this really the Imperial Border Patrol? Behind the drivers sit people wearing helmets and holding weapons. This is a unit to the west. One of the workers reports to headquarters. He checks the connection. They found a runaway witch, a motorcycle traveling at high speed. A man with a big blaster is coming to intercept. Adonis wants to take care of them himself. He takes out spinning knives, but the witch stops him with her hand, right in front of his face. Never. Her partner is still new, so now she needs to act. Chloe Morgan leaves her boyfriend behind. The heroine extends her hand and activates ice magic. A staff of silver snow appears in front of her. The witch walks towards her enemies, and a huge ball of light appears around her. Her staff is very powerful. It is the one that produces such a glow. Morgan addresses these bad boys by swinging at them. They're persistent, aren't they? Modern city during the day. It is completely built up with high-rise buildings. Inside one of the buildings there is a throne among the stands. The man gets down on one knee and bends down in front of the man on the throne, next to whom stands the silhouette of a woman. He tremblingly offers his deepest apologies. Emperor Jeet, the 23rd ruler of Lydia, sits on the throne. His Majesty barely reacts. He simply calls the man an incompetent pig. The informer is trying to justify himself. With all due respect, Chloe is a top-class witch and an ice caster. Ordinary soldiers on the border could not do anything. He doesn't have time to finish when a guard's boot immediately hits his face. What audacity! How dare he speak rudely to his king? How absurd! The informer lies on the floor. They simply call him pathetic. The king says to stop with all these speeches. Let them bring this witch to him immediately. The frowning man looks angrily and threatens that he will not allow this skilled witch to escape. Chloe Morgan just walks through the soldiers and blinds them with her magic. They move away, and there is nothing I can do. She skillfully wields her staff of silver snow. The witch seems to shoot ice flows, bewitching everything around her on her way. Now you can take a break for a second. The witch is tired. She calls Adonis to follow her further. But what happened? Her assistant stands with his head down. He suddenly clenches his fist and screams, wondering why she won't let him. He screams furiously that he wants to use his power and the magic available to him. After all, the assistant also has the ability and strength to do this. Why won't the witch let him fight? Why would he study magic at all then? He himself could perfectly beat all these losers. But Chloe tries to calm her Padawan. She said more than once that Adonis is still inexperienced, so she cannot allow him to leave. The large sword falls down with great force straight into the ground between the heroine and her henchmen. He raises a strong wind around him, which flutters the clothes of the two heroes. The guy is surprised even so. He holds a pen in his right hand, but never in her life has it happened that her ward was inexperienced. But Chloe doesn't even want to hear anything. If he continues to argue with her, then the witch will get angry. It's all because these border soldiers are human, isn't it? Just like Adonis himself. So the point is that Morgan does not allow her ward to kill his own kind because she is compassionate. So it doesn't matter how much these enemies will continue to put pressure on them, because Chloe will simply suppress her feelings and will not allow her assistant to fight with other people. Even when the time has come to abandon his principles, the witch does not allow him to fight to preserve them. But Adonis can no longer remain on the sidelines when he cannot protect his teacher. He is loudly indignant. Chloe Morgan freezes for a moment and looks at her ward. Adonis stops and tries to say something. He wipes his tears with his hand. She is not just a teacher for him. The tall witch presses him to her chest and admits that she experiences the same thing as him. She smiles and speaks tenderly to the person. The ward raises his head up and looks at the girl, all in tears. They remain standing in the middle of the wasteland, hugging each other tightly. Suddenly, behind them, an inaudible short sound is heard from the frozen border soldier. The radio reports that the location data is synchronized. Which one? A strong wind suddenly rises around the couple, leaving both at a loss. They begin to be carried away abruptly. The couple is trying to hold on and not lose each other. They begin to fly in a strong whirlwind and scream loudly. What is this happening to them? This is something that even witchcraft could not achieve. This is long-distance teleportation technology. Adonis is worried during all this. He tries with all his might not to lose sight of Chloe. He asks her if everything is okay. He holds Chloe's hand tightly and says that he is only on her side. Meanwhile, messages appear from inside the modern flying machine. Source code entry is confirmed. All modules are active. The signal is clear. 99% success rate. Interdimensional transfer confirmed. Coordination message received. A command is issued to start execution of the transfer protocol. The transfer point will be the center of the capital, and the coordinates are set to 23 to 94. The countdown to the transfer begins. The man takes off his crown and holds it in his hand. After all, today he would like to talk to his people not as their king but as a simple person. Everyone should know that since time immemorial, all people have lived under the protection of magic. After all, whenever any illness or natural disaster occurred, they all always depended on the witches. We thank them. And they were also revered. And as a result, they began to fear these powerful sorceresses. But isn't it absurd to think that all people will one day be able to supplant magic with their own powers? People had to constantly indulge those witches when it was necessary to ask them for salvation. Is this fair? Are people really that vulnerable? Were they forced to live without their dignity? No. Now everything is different. Let everyone look around. A real industrial revolution took place, which was able to take root throughout the country. There are now many hovering airships in the sky, and the steel capital has become impenetrable to storms. The city has fully automatic railway tracks. The speed of movement around the city opens up new boundaries. and the smartphones that everyone now holds in their hands are all the fruits of people's wisdom. Huge proliferation of new technologies. This is the Industrial Revolution. The whole city listens attentively to their king. People also stand on the street and look at modern large screens with live broadcasts. All this is now available to everyone, without any dubious magic tricks and the like. In bars and establishments, people also look at televisions. Emperor Gate broadcasts that now they are finally able to change the face of nature as people themselves want. Now the country can control nature on its own. And right now, all witches can be considered simply relics of the past. This is an unnecessary appearance that only hinders the real majestic development of people. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come to eradicate the witches and finally show the world that people are the only rulers on earth. The people listen with delight to every word of their ruler. People greet him happily and raise their hands in the air. We need to glorify humanity, glorify ourselves. All people of different ages and cultures fully support His Majesty speaking from behind the podium. They are overjoyed. And a woman with her face covered approaches the gentleman and calls him her dear. Today was a truly wonderful speech for everyone present. But of course the ruler knows about this, because the world is now certainly moving in the right direction. Behind them, there is a huge and loud explosion that leaves nothing behind. The emperor and his companion turn back. Today is one step closer to the eradication of all witches. The couple of Adonis and the majestic Chloe Morgan turn around in horror. How is this possible? They found themselves on the platform right in front of an angry crowd near the emperor's rostrum. The crowd looks truly ominous. This is a huge number of people of an industrial city in its very center during the daytime. The witch's assistant wonders what's wrong with all these people. The ruler sees them and shouts loudly to them, standing tall on a dais in his palace. Witch Chloe, the king calls her. Finally they met. The couple recognizes the ruler. It is Emperor Gate himself. The henchman yells at Chloe to run away right now and takes out his quill while he stops them himself. Adonis will give his girlfriend some time. The path goes faster. But the emperor's guards grab him from behind and press the guy right to the platform. The assistant curses and yells at those bastards to let him go immediately. Everything becomes clear to Jeet now. This means this person was raised by a witch. What happened to the world? And how could this be allowed to happen? Morgan begins to concentrate and speaks forcefully to the king of men. If he wants his people to survive, then let them take their hands off her apprentice. The angry witch holds the staff of silver snow, which begins to work. She orders this to be done immediately. The king thinks for a moment, looking at this fierce witch. The girl summons ice magic, absolute zero. A huge circle with patterns and symbols appears behind her. So this silence will be his answer. The people of this nation, which is now overseeing everything, are as bastard as Adonis. That's why Chloe doesn't want to fight them. If she destroys all people, then this child will lose a place that can be called home. That's why the powerful witch gives her permission for them to live until they become too dangerous. Powerful magical whirlwinds begin to surround the sorceress. People try to close themselves so as not to be blown away. They find themselves unable to look at it. Morgan skillfully makes swinging movements with her arms. Many fragments of ice flows, large and small, scatter around her. The girl looks sternly, standing in a stance. She looks at her hand. Her magic. Has she disappeared? What happened? The emperor stands and calls her a witch. People like her will probably never be able to understand the full power of science that people have managed to acquire. They now have the magical photon inhibitor SDAM2. This is a super complex but effective design with specific tasks and its own screen. The whole people cannot stop laughing. It is doubtful that such a thing could even be considered. The ruler smoothly descends the steps. Once the species of witches is erased by the very people they were supposed to protect, then the world will be inherited by the people who were betrayed by the witches. The whole people watches the speech of their emperor with bated breath. Meanwhile, the apprentice is trying to write something with his pen, some symbols, but for some reason the magic doesn't work. His Majesty suddenly grabs the witch by the collar and pulls her towards him. The king tears the witch's clothes and her full, beautiful breasts become visible. Chloe couldn't do anything, no way to protect herself from this. The assistant calls her loudly. The king then lands a hard blow on her face, causing Chloe to fall backwards. There is a loud crash. What then happens? A witch who cannot use magic turns out to be just an ordinary woman. The entire crowd is delighted, many filming it on their smartphones. People raise their hands up in approval, supporting their king. How funny is it? She's lying completely naked. Let everyone take pictures. The naked breasts of a witch, how interesting it is. Chloe Morgan becomes very ashamed and uncomfortable. She tries to somehow cover her chest with her hands. Just a moment ago she was such a strong witch that she could cope with everything. And now she is in such a disadvantaged position. The crowd is only indignant now. How dare this bitch cover herself? How are they supposed to photograph her now? The assistant is simply beside himself. Tears flow from his eyes like a river, and he loudly screams at all these bastards. He threatens that now it will all be the end. They are all corpses. Adonis will kill everyone. The guy breaks free and rushes like the wind. Let Chloe hold on, he's already following her. The king calmly watches all this drama. He calls him just a noisy child. The guy was grabbed and held by the guards, to whom Jeet gives orders to carry out. The employees obey and point a gun at the guy to finish him off. The exhausted witch has a devastated look. She turns to His Majesty. She fully admits her guilt, kneels and lowers her head low. This child is innocent of anything. Everything is really as His Majesty said, witches must be exterminated. But this child is completely different. He is the same simple person as all these people around, and the girl kidnapped him and raised him as a slave. In reality, he is just a pathetic and wretched human child. Chloe asks to show all the generosity of the king by sparing the life of this boy, and after that he can do whatever he wants with her. Adonis, in tears, cannot believe his ears. She called him a slave now? The witch, clenching her teeth tightly and falling on her face, asks the king to show mercy. The henchman unsuccessfully tries to write something. He intends to kill them all with his magic. It's okay, he's just laughing. The ruler's own large revolver is pressed to the witch's head. She cries heavily, raising her head up. The witch's assistant, in agony, continues to scratch something in the hope of getting at least some result. But nothing works. How could this happen? What happened? Meanwhile, the excited crowd is filming everything on their smartphones. The guard lifts the boy up so he can see the execution. He tries and tries to write, but nothing works. Chloe Morgan just smiles sweetly at the end and thanks Adonis for everything. She is so happy about everything that happened between them. That I was able to meet him then, as a lonely boy on the street. She confesses her love for him, but before she can finish her sentence, a bullet pierces her head. Chloe screams loudly in pain, spreading her arms to the sides. The soldiers fire multiple shots at her naked body. It shatters and a lot of blood flows around. The crowd is excited and happy. They are now completely happy with everything. Meanwhile, Adonis can't believe it. He remembers all those past moments with her. They were really happy. His entire childhood was brightened up thanks to Chloe. She raised him with trepidation, care and love, and taught him everything he can do now. But now in front of him is visible the bloody body of Chloe, who is already unconscious. The crowd is simply happy with such a spectacle. Blood is just everywhere, and the dead body of the witch falls to the ground. The soldiers shot at it to the last, and the people filmed it all on their smartphones. The king raises the girl's severed head high, while making his new speech. And the Lord said to the witches that he was praying for their friendship among themselves, and they should bring peace to this world. For people they must be timid, because they will certainly be afraid of them. For if they quarrel in hatred, then chaotic darkness will fall upon each. And so the dark tale of endless retribution began. 10 years have already passed since that crushing life moment. The one who lost the most dear will be the most ruthless. 10 years after the witch hunt, the Lyrian Empire is a new nightmare capital. The city became even more modernized and industrial. There are only houses and flying cars around. Mayhem Prison Camp, Precinct 7. There are high fences around against the sky. Inside there are many destitute girls sitting in cramped conditions. They are unwell from the terrible treatment, and rats are running around in places. 2 angry girls with shackles on their hands stand up and begin to fight each other for a loaf of bread. They call each other names and tell each other to go to hell. The girls simply behave like pigs. He is no longer able to be aware of his decency and self-respect. They begin to fight, screaming loudly. He tears each other's clothes, gritting his teeth and not finding a place for himself out of anger. But someone from the side calls out to them and gently asks them to stop. This is a sweet smiling girl, Dorok's captive, and she holds out her loaf to them. Let them please take it for themselves and become kinder to each other. 2 angry girls are even more indignant in response and look unkindly. One of them slaps her in the face and calls her names. Let him no longer stick his nose where he is not asked. The girl gets up and just takes a breath. Her friend Anna is worried. She is looking to see if Doka is okay. Didn't everyone get their piece of bread? But the heroine is in no way discouraged. She shows her joy and how she can hold her hands, which are also in chains. Anna is only sad in response. She admits that she only cares about herself. How amazing Doka is after all. The whole crowd of girls is in fear. What will happen to them all in this dark and cramped prison? No matter how much technology has advanced since the Industrial Revolution, and no matter how many witches have died, war will never go away. Anna cries, placing her hands on the shoulders of the sitting Doka. After all, people should be happy. Why did everything happen like this? The girl is all in tears, but Doka asks her to look at herself. She managed to make 2 adorable dolls for her hands when the keepers were distracted. The doll kindly asks why Anna is crying. The second doll, on the other hand, answers this Sir Knight because they are prisoners and she is so scared. The night doll strokes the girl's head with its hands. He tells her to be sure that they will definitely get out of here, and Doka will find a way to help her. Anna rejoices and smiles. She answers, Sir Knight, does he intend to do anything? Two friends become happy with each other during their dialogue. Suddenly, a loud scream is heard from above. Number 218 is called. Let this number drag his ass here. Now, the caretaker is looking for her among the crowd. Where is she? Number 218, hurry up. Both friends are standing scared. One of them has exactly this number. At Anna's. Evil witches say that no one returned after they were called. This is already the fourth person. The caretakers order the girl with this number to show up quickly. Doka gets up. It's her. The girl shows the number on her clothes. Okay, the keepers now tell her to follow them and open the door. The whole crowd just silently watches them. The friend is left all alone, all in tears, holding two Doka dolls. Was that really her number? And number 217 is now on the night doll's forehead. A cute young girl stands in a new place and looks into the unknown. Her looks are appropriate, and so is her age. As for everything else, we'll see. A plump man with big lips and a hairstyle on his head, his legs thrown up on the table, looks at her. He asks the guards if they can remove the girl's clothes. This man is the leader of the prison camp. His name is Varden Palpol. Doka cannot believe what she hears. Small toys hang on chains nearby. Let him not say anything here. And in general, he should not be rude to the gentleman whom he will serve. First he wants to examine her body. A dressed-up man announces that this prison is supported by taxpayers' money. And this is the money that the Lyrian people earn with their blood and sweat. So it must serve the people of this country. She will perform it like a sex slave. Their naked and exhausted bodies are thrown in one place. And there are nooses hanging on their necks, and cuts are visible on their bodies. Doka has a frightened look. She feels creepy from this. But the camp director tells her not to worry, because with time she will get used to it. But for Doka it's just disgusting. She clenches her teeth. Varden Palpol notices this. Let his girl not speak so arrogantly. After all, 10 years ago, when the world witnessed the Industrial Revolution, which country achieved a breakthrough in the development of human civilization? Which country suppressed witches with science and its military force, and ultimately restored human dignity? It's all thanks to their empire. The leader looks at her sternly, with a convincing look. He sharply pulls her by the belt tied around her neck, and takes a photo on the smartphone next to him. The man winks and pouts his lips. He admits that he really can't resist such a body. And those men will also definitely try it out, because it is really good. Now Varden will send this photo to headquarters. The girl sharply bites his fingers with her teeth. The fat man drops his phone and screams loudly in pain. They call her names. How dare she? Doka escapes through the keepers, leaving behind Palpol on his knees, writhing in pain. He orders her to be taken. Where is his smartphone? He can't find his gadget. Doka quickly runs away from the men. She took him for herself. Evil people are chasing her. She needs to act quickly. Now she intends to save everyone. The girl reveals a secret to all the prisoners behind bars. The longer they are here, the more terrible things will happen. But how can she open the doors? She recalls the smartphone through which the manager sent the image to headquarters. She raises the phone up and orders the smartphone to the sand to open all the doors in the prison. But a notification appears on the screen. To unlock voice commands, you need to confirm the administrator's voice. Doka asks to please free them all, but this does not work. The voice remains unrecognized. The girl tries different ways of pronunciation, but it still doesn't work. Open up sesame. Voice not recognized. Then the girl pretends to be a stupid, flirting leader and orders all the doors in the prison to be opened. The verification has now been completed. Using Chief Varden's administrator rights, you need to open all the doors in the prison. Indeed, the iron gates begin to rise, behind which crowds of shackled girls sit. They can't understand why this is happening. The caretakers are outraged. What the hell? Meanwhile, Doka screams for everyone to run away. Anna holds dolls in her hands and calls Dorok. What's wrong with her? The caretakers are making an urgent report. Reinforcements are needed. The slaves had escaped from prison. Damn, they're getting in the way. The girl comes across one special door, located far from all the others. She also opens, following the order. Huge doors are opened right in front of the girl. Bright light passes through them. She runs inside the room. There is a lot of different computer equipment and some kind of prisoner, surrounded by wires and pipes. This unusual metal cabin stands on a raised platform, and on top of it is a figure of a creature's head. The girl looks up at this device in amazement. Suddenly, the caretaker's hand grabs her from behind. He throws her to the floor and calls her names, causing pain. The angry guard steps on the girl's back, pinning her to the floor. It's all her fault. The workers are terribly unhappy. All the doors are open. Now they have to write an explanatory note. Meanwhile, something seems to be happening inside the cabin. The workers turn and look in her direction. Big doors open. What's behind them? Inside there is a man with a completely bandaged body. His arms are crossed. They and his legs are in shackles, and on his head is a helmet with pipes. The prisoner's entire body is held in place by iron chains, and there is a breathing tube in his mouth. Everyone present is confused, and the girl looks in amazement. The chains around the prisoner are broken, he is freed, and all the tubes are also disconnected. The guards stand ready and watch, all the prisoner's shackles are thrown off. A bandaged man comes out of the booth, he looks like some kind of mummy, he grins. This needs to be reported to Chief Varden. Another jailer stops him, now they won't get away with denunciation. So what now? The guards need to go back to the prison, but how will they leave this guy? It doesn't matter, they look closely and see just some guy in front of them. The prisoner now tells these guys that they will come with him, he is approaching. How dare these people? The guy removes the bandages from his face and immediately attacks the guard in the middle, knocking him to the floor. The other guards don't have time to get their bearings. What is all the fuss? What is this prisoner doing? He pierces the caretaker's neck with his own baton. Another jailer aims his weapon at him. He orders him to freeze now. The prisoner looks quickly. He takes a dagger from the sheath of the guard he killed. He turns back and throws the dagger right at the caretaker's head. A direct hit to the forehead. The jailer does not have time to answer. His dead body also falls to the floor. The last guard remaining takes aim at the killer's boyfriend's head. He fires a pistol, and the prisoner manages to move his hand to the side. He points the gun at the guard's body with his own hand. Two enemies collide. The bandaged guy kills the caretaker in the chest. He falls to the floor next. A blood stain is visible on the back. He is reloading a black pistol. Doka looks at all this with a shocked look. He alone managed to deal with 3 caretakers in just a minute. All 3 bloody bodies lie around him on the floor. His eyes are fixed forward and full of rage. The girl doesn't find the words to say to this, she just sighs and takes a breath. She looks in amazement at the escaped prisoner, who is now walking straight towards her. She screams in fear for this stranger to stop, because she is not his enemy. The guy is reloading his pistol right in front of her, and he has excellent accuracy. Doka begs him to stop, but the gun is already pointed at her. The girl only manages to cover herself with her hands. A loud shot is heard. The heroine falls on her back, her eyes are closed, but the chain on her hands is now broken. The prisoner helped her. He takes off the remaining bandages and walks away, while the girl remains curled up on the floor. An alert goes off throughout the prison. Full attention to all employees. Currently, all gates from sections 1 to 6 are open, and a huge number of prisoners escaped. Order to respond immediately. This is not a teaching. The voice repeats once again in the prison dynamics that this is not a teaching. Meanwhile, in the new nightmare capital, the Maine Department of National Security reports a disturbance in the Mayhem prison camp of the 7th District. The captain in the chair orders the situation to be reported immediately. This man is the head of the board of the security department. His name is Yamato. He is the general director. The soldier stands and silently accepts the order. The director gives him permission to use level 5 and use weapons. The smiling girl agrees without question. She will do everything possible to maintain peace in the Empire. She is an agent of ICAUT's main security department. An assistant in a cap sitting behind the head of the board reminds them that their department is the basis for maintaining security. Let this soldier girl not look down on the world that His Highness built. The assistant in the cap is the deputy director of the main security department, Yuki. The employee nods approvingly and goes to the door to carry out the order. Yuki is haunted by this impudent woman who dared to show her attitude towards her respected brother, the director. She intends to kill her, but Yamato calmly replies not to do this. Yuki doesn't understand why, but the fact is that this soldier is actually one of the leaders of this country. The sharp-tongued girl takes off her cape, and on her body the powerful, most modern knightly equipment for battles becomes visible. She's like a rebel robotic killer. The girl turns on the button behind her neck and a sound is heard. Location detection is activated, and she is now wearing special glasses with sensors and the most modern interface. Well, Mayhem Prison, right? The director is puzzled. This is not good. Mayhem Prison Camp, storage room for the most important confiscated items. The door is open. Inside lies several bloody bodies of caretakers. What the hell, all the doors are open. Even a confiscated room. The soldier salutes and apologizes. It's all because of that runaway girl. Because she was able to fake Chief Varden's voices, she gained access to the phone. But the head of the Palpal prison camp cannot reason, because this smartphone was made in the Empire. This is impossible. What's even worse and just horrifying is that all the things except one of the cases, case after broken case, remained untouched. Now how can the manager report this to everyone? In any case, this is extremely strange. Let's say voice verification is bugged, but such rights will still not be enough to open this capsule. This man was kept here for many years, and he was awarded the SS Class Danger rank. This is the witch's disciple Adonis, and he took his feather with him from its case. Now he sits on the roof of the building, holding a pistol in one hand and his pen in the other. He immediately begins writing to them through the air. He makes a lot of circular inscriptions using summoning magic using the writing method. Adonis then performs a buff. He points his gun forward and fires it. In front of him is the entire modern city 10 years later, and it is daytime. The streets are full of people going about their business. They don't suspect anything yet. Suddenly, a huge explosion is heard from the top of the structure above their heads, shocking everyone around them. All people of different cultures and ages look at each other. A huge bullet crashes right into the middle of a multi-story building. Adonis had been waiting for such retribution for a long time. He addresses the dear inhabitants of the empire. Could he just kill them now? Meanwhile, there is a bullet in the forehead of a beautiful girl and blood all around. The semi-robot soldier girl reached her destination and killed all the escaped girls around. The job is done. She joyfully calls the director on her smartphone and reports that the cleanup is over. There is not a single living girl left around. The soldier also reports that he examined each corpse, but did not find one that fit the required description. The director tells him the latest news that a bullet has penetrated the entire building. He accepts the challenge and promises to be there soon. Immediately after he finishes cleaning up the cause of all this mess that has arisen, the robot knight points his blaster directly at Chief Varden and his closest assistants. Elsewhere, Doka screams loudly. She has nowhere to go. What to do now? She sits on the roof of a building and sees how a huge bullet damaged the entire structure. The girl is sad. It's all her fault. A lot of thick smoke comes from the bullet. Doka could not stop them. The magician's hand that forms despair. An advertisement for the best home security system in the form of a robot is shown on the large screen of a modern TV. They are here to protect everyone's precious family. Already in stock, the newest robot assistant is Lydian Kun Mark II. It is on sale at any time and is available for purchase at your nearest store. On all TV screens in the store window, only this advertisement is shown. Adonis silently watches as other people pass nearby. He also turns around and moves on. Suddenly, the commercial is urgently interrupted for breaking news. The presenter reports that just recently, on an office street in the capital of the New Nightmare, a building was hit by a giant projectile that looked like a bullet. At the moment, the number of victims is unknown, but it is extremely likely that this is a terrorist attack from a neighboring country. The witch's apprentice is thoughtful, standing on the street of all this. Most likely, his beloved witch would never approve of what he was going to do now. Chloe says in his head that revenge will never bring her back to life. He managed to escape unscathed, so it's time for Adonis to start valuing his life at least a little. Yes, that's exactly what she would say. Confused passers-by notice him and ask what he is muttering about, and the presenter on the channel is kind of creepy. Everyone goes on with their business. Adonis sees that 10 years have passed and how much everything has changed since that moment. But no matter how many years pass, he will never forget her look, the sound of her voice and her words. The assistant recalls how at the moment of the shot her last words were a declaration of very strong love for him. Adonis too, he loves her very much too. And thinking about all this, he writes spells. Powerful vibrations pass through the city. All the houses in the area and the earth shake. People don't understand what's happening. This is a real earthquake right in the middle of a city office street. The ground parts with a crash and a huge hand sticks out from under it. The former student used summoning magic and applied the consciousness embodiment technique. Grande, a huge creature in the form of a knight appears in the city. It goes through the city and destroys everything in its path, and people run away in horror. On the monster's inverted palm stands Adonis, who controls it. He attacks the entire city, terrifying all the inhabitants. There's work going on inside the building. Someone is calling the hotline. This is the 6th district, the seat of the Rudin agency. The man asks again, is it a giant that appeared out of nowhere? What are they even talking about? The man asks for forgiveness, but such jokes need to stop already. But on the other end of the line, they insist that this is all really true. Then the employee needs to dictate his caller ID number. Suddenly, a car breaks through the window of their building. The damaged car is standing right in front of them. How could this happen? The men ask the driver if he even knows that this is a military establishment. They turn to him, but the man behind the wheel doesn't seem to react much. He's in a state of shock. He is shaking all over in sweat and talking about something huge that the man has never observed in his life. The employee can't understand what happened. Maybe this sir was using drugs. Then he was caught red-handed. He radios the center and introduces himself as Rudin's residence. The employee asks to speak to the narcotics department. No, he raises his head up in shock and saw something unimaginable. It's better to contact him with the security department. And immediately, a huge monster walks further into the city, waving its arms, and some happily try to film it on their phones. Another car is completely wrecked on the road. The girl is crying, and the adults are running away wherever they can. Adonis sits at the level of the giant's head and continues to give him orders to attack the city. Now he will not escape. The witch's assistant intends to go straight to Emperor Jeet. The whole city is listening. At the main residence, they ask to report the situation. The target of the defeat is a huge robot in the form of a statue, but where it came from remains unknown. The entire office street is being evacuated. The soldiers have to retreat from the 5th District, because they cannot protect the entire zone at once and everywhere. Director Yamato asks, "Have you already reported all this to His Majesty?" The soldier replies that the report was shelved at their news agency. After all, according to the Queen, now His Majesty is not entirely healthy. The manager stops the workers with this order. They will deal with this problem themselves. The director then declares a state of emergency and shifts their main focus to the 4th line of defense. Air Force reinforcements must be called in immediately. One of the lead soldiers takes the order and says he will also bring in ground support. The whole team moves into the city. If the situation escalates from local actions into a full-scale war, then heavily mechanized units of troops will have to be used. The soldier accepts the order. They are on the roof of the main Department of National Security, inspecting the city. In front of them is a giant robot walking. This is their combat mission. Yamato is surprised and adjusts his cap. "It's a little big, isn't it? How can such a thing move so quickly?" The girl behind him addresses him. Does her respected brother remember the boy with the brush who escaped from their prison camp? Is it possible that this is all the work of magic? Then everything becomes easier for them. We need to get the magical proton suppressor they used in the war with the witches. The soldier is discouraged. Magic? If his boss means the thing that was underground in the container, then 10 years have passed, and no one could even figure out how it works. The director then leaves this matter to his sister Yuki. And she must remember that this is a matter of national security. Yuki takes the order. All the townspeople scream loudly and run down the street from the killer robot. The city's loudspeakers are turned on. They are informed by the National Security Department that they urgently need to proceed to a safe zone in their homes. The loudspeakers keep repeating this phrase. All the people are panicking. Cars are overturned, and there are wounded and dead on the roads. Modern tanks with guns stood in a row on the roof of the building. The 4th Defensive Artillery Battalion is ready. The order is given to aim guns at an unidentified giant statue. She walks straight towards them. The commander shouts fire. Powerful loud shots are heard. But they do not reach the giant and first destroy the houses. People on the street are filming all this on their smartphones. The commander is furious. Where are they aiming? But the fact is that their shells do not reach the giant. Adonis keeps writing and doesn't stop. He tells all these bastards to go to hell. He swings even harder right at the high-rise building nearby. It breaks in the middle from such a blow. Soldiers take cover from flying shrapnel, theory and execution. All these 10 years have undoubtedly brought their benefits. Endless simulations, constant imaginings and contemplation of all the crazy ideas in your head. This all provided the ideal environment for achieving deep wisdom, so that Adonis can carry out a real massacre. Those who are not natural witches have a unique way of controlling the magic flows. This technique is called embodiment of thought. Chloe's student managed to understand and formulate a magical mechanism to then enhance his desires using this special feather. Achieving mastery of this is not so easy, but not for one of the most powerful mentors. The person who is standing here now and the one who is not here will be completely changed, because people considered Chloe's brutal murder an act of justice. Now every living soul in this kingdom, all of humanity who believed they had been given a divine blessing, would be found guilty. The magic of summoning, the embodiment of thought, is activated. Adonis holds 2 huge cannons. The sound of bullets can be heard. Blood for blood. He fires terrible and powerful shots right at people on the street. They try their best to escape from him, but the bullets reach them and kill them. What a magnificent view. The student gets real satisfaction from such retribution. Now he writes with his pen again. Adonis wants more. This is not enough. The assistant director reports that he was able to discover the instigator of this whole mess. He is currently in the palm of the giant statue. That's right, the soldier sees it through his binoculars. This man matches Yamato's description exactly. Inside the security department, the director reports to all troops. Their enemy is one of those who was imprisoned many years ago. This is the witch's apprentice, Adonis. Fighter planes take to the skies. The order is given to launch an air attack. Target locked. Semi-automatic missiles are being launched. They hit the giant's robot directly and smash it. Adonis covers himself and flies back. The fighter pilot confirms that the target has been hit, but the damage is still unknown. Re-attack in progress. Enough surprises for people today. The bombing is repeated. Shells fly from above towards the giant. They hit and crush him. A collision of enormous force occurs. Local people are panicked and cannot understand what is happening. Has an air war really begun? And they still haven't evacuated. You can't just stand there and wait. You need to run faster and have time to get to the shelter. One child calls out to his wounded, bleeding mother, telling her to get up. The boy turns back in tears. A huge fragment of a building hangs in the air above him. The woman extends her hand to him, presses him to her and shields him from the blow. She admits that she is truly sorry for how all this happened. This is Doka. She saved the child. People are gradually rising from the rubble. Now everything is all right? Did the military destroy the giant? We need to get out of here quickly. One man is crying, trying to find his beloved. Doka can't stay here any longer. She asks the nearest woman to take this boy to a safe place. But the frightened one replies that it will be a little problematic. Doka runs further. It's dangerous here. Please let him hurry. The girl stood opposite the giant and looked up at him, because she knew what was going on here. She needs to stop this man. Adonis fell to the ground with his arms spread out to the side. He lies among large boulders. He regrets that, as expected, his body is too weak. Smoke emanates from the rubble of a partially destroyed city. A helicopter is flying in the sky. Soldiers are climbing down ropes from it. The perimeter is clear. The enemy has not yet been detected. They are watched on the big screen in the management department. The search begins. Headquarters is in touch. Despite the fact that he is young, the enemy has colossal magical power. Everyone needs to be extremely careful. The director keeps everything under control and oversees the operation from above. It is not necessary to take him alive. He allows you to shoot to kill. The soldier stands stunned. This is what magic means. She can move an entire statue without fuel, despite being so healthy. This must be a joke? The entire main street of the city seemed to be in hell, with many corpses of people and rubble of buildings lying on it. Aviation turns to the center. The situation is emergency. A fire was spotted near the statue. This could lead to even more casualties. Suddenly the pilot notices something. Some inscriptions float in the air. Crap. The pilot cannot see what is ahead because of some black mud. You need to be careful. Black lines surround the helicopter. This is again the work of Adonis. He writes and writes. He intends to stop this helicopter with his magic. The soldiers on the ground notice something is wrong with that helicopter. What the hell? He warps. The helicopter has zero visibility and cannot gain altitude. Adonis just furiously tells this helicopter to just drop. He crashes straight into a building. The warriors cannot understand where they were attacked from. It all seemed to come out of nowhere. Suddenly they notice a man on the roof from behind. The captain needs to take a look. Chloe's former henchman Morgan notices that because of this bloodlust he even feels somehow uneasy. He looks down at people with hatred, holding a pen in his hand. Adonis appears on the main screen inside the department, and Director Yamato is informed that it is him. The leader is furious. Let this witch disciple dare not underestimate their strength. Meanwhile, in the royal chambers, a large bed, next to which a person is sitting, and no one else is nearby. Spacious empty halls. It's so noisy outside. The 23rd ruler of the Lydian Empire, Jeet, asks how long he slept. The bandaged wife answers her lord that only half an hour has passed. No need to worry. She asks him to lie down. Now his majesty needs rest. The country is prospering, and all this thanks to the king who built a powerful empire. These words undoubtedly please the tired ruler. However, despite this, it could happen thanks to the beautiful queen who constantly helped her husband all this time. He gets up and starts coughing, covering himself with his hand. The wife is concerned about her lord. He believes that his life is now coming to an end. It's all a damn incurable disease. There's blood on his palm. The queen orders that Dr. Griffin be called quickly. Her majesty obeys. The soldiers are already on their way. But the gentleman calms her down. Everything is fine. He is still breathing. Apparently this is a curse from God himself. But still he doesn't regret anything. They all came this far with the goal of building an empire based on modern technology. They burned all the witches, all of them. They did everything to move forward. That is why, as long as they exist, humanity will not have a chance to progress. Their species must seek new paths with new strength. In the new era, magic has become unnecessary because it can cause many problems. That is why, in order to achieve the deserved development for humanity, he did what had to happen sooner or later. It starts to rain outside the window. The queen says that the burden that her husband has carried all these years, now the rain seems to wash away the crusty dirt. The emperor admits that she is a beautiful flower for him, who gave him light in endless battles. The woman smiles. She will always be his queen, Andromeda. In the National Security Department, not a single window is shown on the big screen. Yamato sees nothing. They are cut off from the main forces. Damn it. What the hell is this? Isn't the magic suppression device still available? Not yet, but there is something on the radar. Some civilian is approaching their target. Maybe it's his accomplice. Adonis stands on a mountain of rubble and holds an old warrior raised up by the neck with one hand. He doesn't understand what kind of guy this is. This is useless because the man is a specialized soldier with many augmentations. 10 years ago, they should have killed that brat along with that pathetic witch. Chloe's henchman agrees with this. They really had to. He gathers his strength to deal with his enemy. Suddenly, a girl appears from behind. She screams at him to stop. This sweet girl managed to come to her senses and get through all the rubble. Adonis recognizes her. She was then in a prison camp. The girl asks to stop this massacre. After all, he has already killed so many. Enough? Chloe's young assistant is thoughtful. Doka turns away. She no longer wants to see the death of innocents. But the guy kills the man, and a lot of blood splashes around. What did she say now? Innocent? Adonis laughs hysterically. So now he's a good guy? And all this was just a misunderstanding. He says to be honest with each other. In fact, it doesn't really matter whether these people belong to Lydia or not. All humanity is his enemy. The angry guy wants to make each of them suffer. They are just prisoners of this damned empire. But Doka replies that Chloe would not want all this at all. The witch's apprentice asks what did this girl just say. If she was really important to him, Chloe Morgan would definitely. But the angry guy grabs her by the clothes and pulls her towards him. Stop mentioning that name, as if Doka knew her well. He calls the girl a creature. After all, she's just some pathetic prisoner. Why is she bothering him? Doka what? A spy? A decoy before the next military attack? Yes, that's right, she is one of them. People like her always stand on the side of people. Now is not the time for her childish games of justice. Everything is the same as that time. If they had fought in a fair fight, Chloe would never have lost to those vile people. After all, she doesn't even have a clue what's going on. And yet Doka sticks her nose into other people's business. But the girl smiles and calls him by name. This is the name given to the most wonderful witch in the world, and she gave it to her favorite student. Every witch knows this story by heart. The guy can't believe his ears. Did she say witches? This is true, the girl is glad to meet them. Her name is Doka, and she is a witch. But the ferocious student grabs her tightly by the neck. He's had enough of this nonsense. Let him stop this nonsense. Witch? So now she's also bragging about it? The last witch was killed 10 years ago. Everyone knows this very well, but she's still trying to fool the guy? Nowadays people just mock witches. Does she think Adonis is stupid? But Doka shouts that it's all true. They managed to survive the last witch hunt. So what, even if she is a witch, where was she 10 years ago? Why? Why didn't she try to save her comrade? The exhausted girl replies that they all spent their strength to avoid the massacre. They were weak, she was really sorry. But no matter how much she rants, Chloe will still never be brought back. Chloe can be returned, Doka modestly answers. She can resurrect her. The student immediately throws the girl aside from him. She just falls to the ground. Enough of this nonsense. Resurrect her? Moreover, all these humiliations they went through together. But the girl only asks to listen to her. To save him, Doka pretended to be a slave in order to infiltrate Lydia. The guy activates summoning magic and writing style. Since he really is a witch, then let him show what he is capable of. Doka screams that they did all this to get Chloe back. They want the memory of both Chloe Morgan and Adonis. And the guy himself is the main aspect in Chloe's revival. A huge sword appears in the apprentice's left hand. He screams to die. Adonis threatens to eliminate all interference and destroy all dissenters. The student will exterminate those who dared to mock Chloe, and he will kill even those who speak about her. Death awaits them all. He puts a sharp sword right at this girl's throat. But the young witch smiles at him in response. If it bothers him, the girl is glad she met Adonis. He throws the sword aside and kneels in front of her. His hands are on the ground, and he begins to cry loudly. Is this really true? Can he finally get her back? Doka nods approvingly. She extends her hand to him. Let him go with her, and the girl will tell him everything. Now he is not alone. But suddenly a shell hits her from behind. The powerful blow sends the witch flying to the side. The guy is stunned and freezes with his mouth open. Blood is dripping from her mouth, and the body is also now covered in blood. It falls straight into the hands of Adonis. The student presses him to himself and remains in the same place. It was a sniper on the roof. There is a hit. Target neutralized. But the robot girl is even surprised and swears. He thought that he could kill both of them at once. One is still alive. 10 years ago, Mitsumiya region, Lydian Empire. Houses are burned and huge explosions occur. People simply end up on the ground. The girl with her mouth open looks at her native area, which is all ablaze with strong fire. There are many corpses lying in front of her. This is all the work of the soldiers of the Empire with their machine guns and ferocious attacks. This brings them all only joy and comfort. The discouraged Doka is hugged from behind by an older girl. She's so glad her sister is still alive. Doka stands completely confused, not understanding what is happening. Her sister Mia doesn't know either. Those people suddenly attacked their houses. But how could this happen? Because their races entered into an alliance. Everyone went to the capital to cure Tom's illness, and now this. Mia admits that they cannot use their magic now. But why? Behind them is a huge installation with many plates on the roof. That device blocks the magical power of witches. If Ophelia herself were here, she might have said something about this. The sister tells Doka to run to the city where Ophelia-sama is now staying. That one will explain everything to her. Let the girl talk about what happened. Doka now needs to run into the forest, and then follow the paths to the mountains. Let him run as fast as possible and never look back. Will the road go alone? No, let your sister be nearby. But Mia only smiles humbly in response. Her sister is a good girl. The Star of Revelation will show her the way to Ophelia-sama. Dorok is already initiated, so she will have to understand. The young witch is very strong. Let him use everything possible to escape, sliding like a shadow past obstacles on the way. Now let him go. Doroka wipes the tears from her eyes, she obeys and quickly runs away. Mia remains sitting on the ground and looks after her. She knows that her sister is truly a strong girl. When she runs away from this place, then the witch can be calm. Meanwhile, several laughing uniformed soldiers approach from behind. They surround her with their weapons in their hands. Doroka rushes away from this place in tears, clutching a small doll next to her. Everything around is on fire. These are Doroka's last memories. She is already an adult lying on the ground covered in blood in front of Adonis. He's sorry the girl was shot. The witch spits blood and gets worse. The student shouts that she should not dare die. What should he do now? Let him tell you how to get Chloe back. The girl is holding onto his jacket. She says to listen to her carefully. But suddenly a burst of many bullets is heard. Adonis barely has time to dodge. Doroka's dead body is left covered in blood and multiple gunshot marks. The apprentice is upset. He is alone again. Everything is so fast. He is now surrounded on all sides by soldiers with guns. They are aiming at him. Adonis is trying to recover from this. Stupid witch, is she kidding me? The guy hits the ground with his fist. Told him she could resurrect Chloe, and then this. So what should he do now? He has no idea. One of the soldiers sends him straight to hell, calling him a demon. The robot girl stands watching everything from above. She reports via smartphone to her boss, Yamato. You could say the game is over. Adonis takes out his magic pen again. They are still rejoicing early. All these little people. A lot of black writing appears around him. It forms something like a cloud around itself. All the soldiers simultaneously open fire directly at him. But the cloud becomes even blacker, and Adonis stands inside it. The warriors of the Empire shoot non-stop at the target given to them. The director is watching everything from the window of the National Security Department. Dan, you're stubborn. He notices a huge black cloud. The bullets hit him directly. But the witch's apprentice uses a magical reversal, and the bullets are redirected in the other direction. They hit the same soldiers who fired them. The entire team of soldiers is killed from multiple bullet wounds. Now the robot girl on the dais with her long gun joins in. Let this insolent die. A powerful and huge projectile flies at high speed straight towards Adonis. The guy still has a pen in his hand, and he doesn't give up. The one remaining soldier turns back, sensing the approach of a shell. It falls to the ground with a loud sound, spreading everything around. The student again uses summoning magic, a writing style, forming a black fence of symbols in front of him. This will be retribution. A huge shell appears directly above Adonis. Now let it fly. The girl robot ruler can't believe it. This must be a joke. She doesn't even have time to finish speaking. The shell destroys half of her body. Direct hit on the target on the roof of a multi-story building. They are all just mediocre parasites. Do they really think they can hook a mage, even a little? Do they really believe that they could surpass magic? They killed him, Chloe. And they also want to live peacefully, so they better not make the wizard laugh. He is extremely angry and intends to wipe out all humanity from this vile planet. And then they will feel for themselves what she went through. The director is now looking at the big screen of his department. His sister Yuki had better hurry up now. The girl, along with other soldiers, reached him. This is what it looks like. A magic proton suppressor, MPS. This is a large structure with many pipes. This is what this anti-magic device looks like. Proof of the technical superiority of humans over witches. If Yuki can turn it on, then they will be able to seal Adonis' magic. Finally, Yuki is glad she can become useful to her brother. She gets really excited and makes a joyful cry. The soldiers did not understand this a little. Yuki suddenly changes into an embittered commander and orders his subordinates to act immediately. Why did they get up? But a girl in a robe appears in front of them, and along with her there was a small group of some decent people. Oh, those kids from the Ministry of Security, says one of them, are reckless as usual. The girl knew they would come. Yuki doesn't understand who else they are and what they are doing here, but it seems my sister is starting to guess. These people are from the Ministry of Science. In the Kingdom of Lydia, this ministry is one of the 4 largest in the country. The head of the Theta Ministry, Samantha, recognizes her old friend. She notices how much Yuki has grown and become strong. But unfortunately, she can't turn this thing on. Yuki holds his blaster in his hand. What does this all mean? She needs details, and quickly. A little later, Yuki calls on the director's smartphone. Her brother Yamato is worried. Is something wrong? Why hasn't she turned on the device yet? The guards look at each other. A voice sounds. The Department of Defense is in a sticky situation, isn't it? The director recognizes this voice. Is it the head of TET? The scientist takes the phone from Yuki's hand, but she doesn't have time to get her bearings. Theta is sure that Yamato will be able to give her a minute, isn't she? The director is nervous. Now is not the time for jokes. If their calculations are correct, Then there is no time left at all. Theta tells the head of Yamato not to be such a grump. There is something she needs to discuss with him after all. The workers at the computers turn around, stopping their work for a minute. The communication between the two heads looks so cool. The boss asks again, the anti-magic proton device cannot be turned on. Science is an incredible thing that has allowed humanity to illuminate the world. However, even if they have discovered a lot, there are still things that are beyond their knowledge. At this time, Theta lights a cigarette and puts the phone aside on speaker. This is a really difficult conversation. The girl smokes one cigarette after another in her ashtray. The thing is, the anti-magic proton device emits something they call nuclear protons, and their consequence is a syndrome that can cause serious cell deficiency. According to records, half of the soldiers who took part in the witch hunt were affected by this strange disease. Due to some unexpected factors, they have not yet come to a conclusion, but all members of the Ministry of Science agree that these nuclear protons are harmful to the human body. The female scientist takes off her black high heels as she continues talking. Because this device simply destroys human cells. The director is surprised. This is the first time he has heard about this. This is because such things are not talked about. The scientist cannot stop smoking one cigarette after another. It's actually pretty damn bad. Without the magic of witches, which cleanses and restores the natural resources of the world, the environment that neutralizes dangerous factors is also lost. Mother Nature is no longer able to purify the air. If there are more such problems in the world, the director talks for her, there will be severe radiation exposure, and soon all of humanity will disappear. Another cigarette was smoked by the girl. Yamato on the other end of the line is indignant. Is this what science left to people? In the past, during the war for humanity, let him remember who interacted with the device the most and what happened to him. Everyone knows this man. This means that this is due to His Highness's illness. At the moment, he cannot even walk or breathe normally. He always lies in his bed next to his wife. Young Yuki can't believe what she heard. It's impossible. This can't all be true. She quickly starts running straight to the device and doesn't even want to hear anything. They all sit and are afraid of some kind of disease. And the real magical threat is already here. The girl wants to serve her brother to make him proud of her. Theta tells his employees to quickly hide. Yuki should stop and listen to the head of the Ministry of Science. It cannot be turned on. If she herself finds herself in contact with him, even for a second, then irreparable things could happen to her too. But the girl only thinks about being useful to her brother. The director asks on the phone what's going on there. The bloody Theta can barely speak, steam escaping from her mouth. Nothing special, just the Ministry of Security being reckless as always. She takes Yuki's sister's damaged body away from the device, receiving radiation herself in the process.